you did mention, for example, this famous or infamous word or words, shalhevet yah, in the poem. And that has, of course, engendered a lot of discussion throughout history, and the question, as you mentioned, of whether it's referring to the name of God or not. I've read another proposal which says that the appearance of the divine in the poem might be conceived in a different way, which is to say that love actually takes the place of God in the traditional biblical Hebrew conception, the warrior God that conquers all. Love here is stronger than death. Love is the one that's conquering and controlling. And so some scholars have even, looked at the Ugaritic literature and biblical Hebrew literature and said, well, there's a kind of, possibly very subtle connection there. What would be your perspective on an argument like that attempts to, make a much broader symbolic argument about the text?
I think that borders on the allegoric reading. It's not quite an allegoric reading, but it's moving towards seeing the book as the relationship between God and Israel. I think also what is going on, which often goes on, especially in this passage, if there's a God in this book, it's the God Eros. It's not the God of Israel. But of course, you can't, it's not quite that, because it's still a Jewish book, and it isn't going to have multiple gods. And I actually think it sounds to me more Christian than Jewish to say love replaces God. But I don't think anything is replacing love in this book. I think love is the subject, is the thing in itself. I also think what may be going on in the source that you quoted is most biblical scholars, myself included, are trained in the ancient Near East, not in classical works. I'm untrained in classical studies. So we tend to look towards to Mesopotamia for our comparisons. And indeed, there are such things. And, they carry on throughout the Bible too. When it comes to the verses in chapter 8 about Rishpei Aish, many scholars connect that with the Canaanite or Ugaritic god Resheph, who also has arrows. But he's a god of death, and he's a god of war. And I think it's not the right connection. I think if you're going to look for a god, it's the Greek god Eros with his flaming arrows, because he's the god of love. So I definitely don't think it's a contest or a cosmic battle going on, although I have read that too in some sources. I tend to take a very kind of human, non-allegorical perspective. This is love poetry. It's about human love. How it came to be read allegorically is the subject of a whole separate discussion. Clearly, it was read allegorically for most of its history. It still is today, and there are attempts today to bring back a more modern allegorical reading. I can't, trace the whole history of that, but I would say that one thing that strikes me as being a reason, which I didn't bring out in this talk, is that there are a lot of biblical allusions. It's a great literary work, and he plays with biblical phrases and words constantly. And when you read it, you begin to read it as part of the Bible. And if you're reading as part of the Bible, then you're reading it as the story of Israel. And then it becomes part of the story of Israel, or a kind of replay of the story of Israel. So to me, it's in a sense a small step if you're looking for something other, because, what is human love, erotic stuff doing in the Bible? If you want to give it I don't know but nobody seems to know whether the allegoric reading started before it was canonized or afterwards.
What Bible do you read? And how do you know it's the right one? There's only one version of the Bible, right? It might surprise you to learn that Bible translations led to many versions of Holy Scripture. Long ago, translators interpreted the Hebrew Bible, ensuring it would be enjoyed in many languages. But when they encountered Hebrew words they didn't understand, translators relied on their individual cultural context and used different words with different meanings unrelated to the original ones. This led to Bible versions that lacked the full, beautiful, original explanations becoming part of our history. That's why when you join our online classes, you'll get back to the source of the original Hebrew Bible to uncover hidden meanings. Get back to the source. Join our online course today, where the treasures of the authentic Bible await you. Click on the link and register to start your biblical experience.